Hey, before we get into the episode, I want to go ahead and apologize for the lateness of this episode. This was originally supposed to be an April Fool's episode, but between life and other things from both me and Derek, we were not able to get recordings and editing done in time, and we already know we're behind on our schedule, so just please enjoy the episode for what it was meant to be, which was an April Fool's episode.
Hello, and welcome back to the Alexander Society. I'm your host, elite sharpshooting trooper of the Legions of Hell, Derek, joined by my best friend and co-host, the Pilgrim Suicide Bomber who's about to roll 12 on my injury roll, Tim. How are we doing today, Tim?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to be back at it after, almost a month and, our anniversary episode barely being released on time to be in the anniversary month.
Yeah.
Because life has hated us this year.
Yeah, life's really, yeah, man.
Decided it's no lube this year.
Yeah, man, mental health got hands. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got some updates to give about where I'm at with the podcast. Our listeners may be aware that it's been a cool minute since we've put anything out, and that's because I had a lot of mental health happen, a lot of medical issues happen, and the long and short of it is we're back. We'll be able to get back to doing these regularly. However, I am now on medications that might kill me if I drink alcohol. So
he's waiting to consult a doctor before rejoining truly drinking the podcast.
Yeah, it is. I do not see a future where I am able to regularly drink liquor again. I might be able to do beers in moderation, but that has yet to be seen. So we will figure that out when we get there. But for this episode, I do not have anything to drink, unfortunately, which it really, really bad timing is. It really sucks to be going through shit like this, and I can't even drink.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Every time I open my freezer, I see that stuff. I'm like, oh, that looks good right now. Oh, not even for the flavor, just for the lights out. But we're coming out of it. We're doing better. I'm regardless of being able to drink or not, I'm very happy to be back.
Yeah, regardless of the drinking part of the podcast, we're going to try and keep going no matter what. Even if it has to be Tim makes a fool out of himself being the only drinker. We will get where we'll keep going.
Right, yeah. So no rules for this one, unfortunately. Here in this illustrious society, we do not, in fact, abide by an ever-changing set of rules.
At least not always, because mystery dockets have proved that.
Yeah, look. I am the law. So if I say no more laws, that's the law now. So
maybe.
Anyways, Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm doing a menagerie of episodes past. I just polished off a bottle of Avalanche. It's an amber beer. Honestly, I didn't have anything chilled this week, so because I wasn't sure if we were going to drink. I was going to drink it all. I knew Derek likely was not going to be able to, so I didn't really anticipate whether if I would or not. And I was like, you know what? I'll have a beer or two, but I'm not going to try like I normally do with rules, because obviously I knew we weren't going to run into this rules, but with anything. So I was like, okay, whatever. But then in case it goes past that, I've also got the leftover from the blackberry hard cider from Locust. And then I have some more of the bluesberry ale from Bricktown.
You know what? If Doc tells me that I am actually able to have, just a beer, not go too hard, I'm going to go to Bricktown Brewery, and I'm going to get
your first stop is at Bricktown Brewery.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Bricktown Brewery. I'm going to get some bluesberry ale on tap. Have you ever had it on tap?
No, you have. I've never been to a Bricktown Brewery.
It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. They serve it with blueberries.
You just described it you've described it several times, and it makes me drool. But there's no. I don't think there's a Bricktown brewery around here.
There probably isn't. No. You'll probably have to come down, and I'll take you to the one down here on the south side.
Sometime.
So, anyways, you want to get into today's topic?
Yes. Let's get into our April Fool's topic.
Yeah. So, this is gonna be a grim one.
Very grim dark.
Very grim dark. We're going to be discussing the absolutely true and historically accurate tale of Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is a miniatures tabletop war game that has basically dominated all of my free brain space for the last little over probably almost a year and a half now.
You were pretty obsessed with it right as it was like running its Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, yeah, brother, I don't... Because I kept hearing you talk about your backer levels, and I imagine I felt like you felt when I was describing this one, and I kept telling you to go up. You never talked dollar amounts, but, like, that's how I felt in the moment.
Yeah, no, that's why that amount of money was mind-blowing, because the miniature backer Kickstarters that, like, I look at, that I think are crazy expensive. Like, I've never seen one that's more than like $150, and that's for like a whole bunch of cool shit.
There was a whole bunch of cool shit, but I really didn't like their price levels, to be perfectly honest. But it was probably my only chance to get it in hardcover, and I am a slut for books in hardcover, and they were valuing them at $75 each. And that was at, like, I think a slight discount for what it will probably eventually retail at, if it retails. Because this is one of those things that I'm not certain they're going to retail it. It might be an online store. You know how some Kickstarters post, like, full launch will, like, okay, here's the excess units, sell through there. I think they're going to, like, charge, like, $10 more, so it's going to be, like, $85 per unit. But, like, I don't think those are going to be, like, on store shelves. At least not that copy. And it's a really nice print quality.
Okay, that's fair. I'm
going to try and I'm going to send you the link. You don't have to look at it right now, but like, I want you to like see like I'm trying to justify myself, but I know there's very little justification. To be fair, I liked it. I wanted it. I bought it. Like that's all the justification there was.
Yeah. Yep, simple as.
I would not have bought that level if I did not have over the course of 4 months, you can pay it in 4 installments. If I had to pay it outright, I would have bought whatever got me all 3 books, and that's it. If I can split it up to 4 payments of 100, yes, I'm going to do that level because it gets me everything but the signature and the numbering.
So, I'm gonna be completely open here, real quick. The guy who made the rules for this tabletop game is this Finnish guy named Tuomas Perinen, and he's very involved in the community. He's very involved online.
Is he? I really like when. So I like it when creators are involved, but it's like, think of a 180 of J.K. Rowling, because fuck that turf for one, but two, like, it's nice to be able to get answers about your stuff without having to be like, oh, hey, are you certain about this?
I have had rules questions in the middle of games that I'm actively playing. I go onto Blue Sky and I tag him in a post on Blue Sky asking a rules question, and he will clarify it for me while I'm playing the game. That's dope as shit.
That's dope as shit. That is dope as shit. That's the kind of game I want to be behind. Fuck yes.
I love him to death. He is funny. He's really cool. And he makes great fucking games. He makes great games.
This is obviously not his first game, is what you're saying.
Oh, no. He is also the guy who did he did the rule set for, I think it was Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition, and also did Warhammer Skirmish, another Warhammer Skirmish scale game that was kind of the spiritual, like the rules spiritual successor to or spiritual ancestor of Trench Crusade, a system called Mordheim,
Okay.
which is probably revered as one of the greatest rule sets in the history of Warhammer. And he's also been involved in a bunch of creative design teams for like EA and a couple video game developers.
I will say this about all the miniatures I've seen from it, and I don't mean this literally. I mean it more. It invokes the same vibe as Cyberpunk, not like a steampunk. It doesn't invoke steampunk, but it gives me like what I don't know how to describe whatever the thing is, but it gives me the same kind of energy steampunk does because it feels like a complete aesthetic. It feels like a real aesthetic. It doesn't feel like just a setting.
Yeah, it's called Diesel Punk. That's what it's called.
Yes. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's diesel punked, but mixed with like medieval aesthetics and World War I aesthetics, and then a whole bunch of like supernatural body horror.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a bit of World War One. Yeah, it's got all of that in there. I will agree.
So, the reason I mention Tomas is because there is a good chance that when you post about it on social media, there's a good chance he's gonna come across it and he might listen to it.
Woo-wee!
So, because he loves listening to people listen to podcasts about this game. He loves when people geek out about his game. Yeah.
So what you're saying? There's a good taste.
Anyways, Tomas, you're a lovely human being. I'm glad you're in our community. I've taken a little bit of, as you said, this history is incomplete and biased. So I have taken some creative liberties to make it a little bit more interesting. It is all preserved in the original spirit.
That is history. I want to interject. Sorry because you had something beautiful going, but history is incomplete and biased. So fuck it.
Yeah, fair. History. The study of history is the study of interpretation and narrative building based on factual data. So Tomas has given me the factual data, and I'm going to build a narrative out of it. So, the tale that I'm about to tell is a collection and summary of the works of the scholar Melchior Gessel, which were compiled into a grand tome entitled The Official and True Annals of Church History, published in the city of New Antioch in the year of our Lord, 1910. Our completely accurate and utterly unbiased history of the Great War between the forces of the faithful and the blasphemous hordes of hell begins far back in prehistory. God's most beautiful and beloved soldier, Lucifer, led a third of the host of heaven in revolt against the Almighty, and they were cast into the lake of fire in punishment. Here, on the shores of hell, Satan would found the capital of his new empire of sin, the city of Pandemonium. And Pandemonium is...
That's fucking ingenious name for a city run by Lucifer, I will tell you.
That is from Paradise Lost. That's where the term Pandemonium refers to.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's the city that Satan founded in hell as his capital. Because Pandemonium is Latin.
I had no idea.
Pandemonium is Latin for pan is all and demon, and then so that translates as the place of all demons. Yeah.
Wow. I feel like I should have known that by now.
Yeah, that's where Pandemonium comes from. It's from Paradise Lost. John Milton. I started reading Paradise Lost the other day recently, and it's really fucking good, actually.
We need to eventually like do an episode maybe another opposite day episode on it, because that would be real. Because we were talking about adding a secondary opposite day episode in like July, not opposite day, prank episode. We could also add another prank episode, and so what would the equivalent be? April 1st. It would be like October or September would be like another prank episode, like.
Yeah, like October 1st would be 6 months.
Yeah, like we could do our like I don't know how we would do it because like April Fools is like very clearly what would we make it like an un-April Fools or call it that or whatever.
We'll make it anti-April Fools. Punished April Fools.
Okay.
Anyways, so
the scary thing is we bring you April Fools twice a year. Ookie spooky.
April Fools twice a year. Well, isn't Halloween is basically just like a kind of April Fools, but in the fall.
It focuses more on like scary rather than ha ha.
Actually, I think Paradise Lost would actually be a good Halloween topic now that I think about it. Yeah,
and we could probably we could do the whole thing. Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained. Isn't there a third one where he goes? I know there's two for sure. I want to say there's a third.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not sure. I didn't know that there were other ones besides Paradise Lost. Anyways, so from that point forward, the story is much as you know from the good book. Adam and Eve are banished from Eden, the world suffers a flood, the Israelites are led out of bondage in Egypt, the Israelites are led into and back out of captivity in Babylon, and the only begotten Son of God is born to a virgin mother, nailed to a cross, and rises from the dead to redeem the sins of man. From there, history travels a steady and almost uncomfortably mundane course. The Roman Empire falls, and the Christian world is dominated by kings, dukes, and other varieties of feudal lords, all revolving around the growing influence of the Holy Church in Rome. That is, until 1072. Mystics from across the Christian world...
It's just Paradise Regained, by the way. Sorry, I wanted to clarify. There's only two.
Got it. Mystics from across the Christian world began identifying celestial... A lot of this lore and a lot of this history is kind of vague. So I'm not going to give specifics because there aren't specifics. This is the wording that is used, and I've tried to fill in the blanks as best I can, but there's just a lot of information that isn't out yet because the game is like a year and a half old. So,
yeah, I thought it was 2 years old.
Yeah, I guess it is about 2 years old.
I thought it because I remember it was around. Like, it was like springtime when like you were. It was like fall when you first mentioned it, and then like I remember you like, hey, the files and stuff, and like lore had started releases like a springy time area.
They released the initial rule set, like the initial like play test rule set in like early 2024, but it didn't. They had the Kickstarter in fall of 2024.
It was in beta, basically.
Yeah, and then they didn't.
Okay, so basically it was in beta then.
Yeah, and then they didn't even get to the official first edition of the rules until last September.
Wow. I didn't realize it was still... Okay.
Yeah, so the actual like full release of the game has only been since about 6 months. Yeah. Anyways, so mystics across the Christian world began identifying celestial portents of impending doom. They started seeing signs that the divine plan of God had been disrupted in some way, and it was making everybody really anxious for some reason. Everybody in the know. Heretical cults spreading unorthodox teachings began to sprout up all across the Christian world, making church leaders nervous. And so they authorized the founding of an organization called the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, better known as the Knights Templar.
Is that how the Knights Templar were originally named in the real world?
That is their original name in real life, yes.
Wow, okay. I didn't know Solomon was involved in the original naming.
Yeah, the Temple of Solomon is a building in Jerusalem, and it's where at the end of the First Crusade, it's where the Templars were founded. Was in this building on the Temple Mount, which was believed at the time to be the ancient temple built by King Solomon. Later, archaeology revealed that it wasn't actually the Temple of Solomon, but at the time they thought it was, and that's where the Templars were based out of, which is where the name came from. But So yeah, you start to get all of these heretical cults popping up, and so in an effort to try to preserve the orthodoxy of the church, of church dogma amongst the flock, they started founding militant orders in order to kind of enforce orthodoxy in this kind of time of growing up upheaval of all of these sort of heretical practices that were starting to become commonplace. And so one of these groups was the Knights Templar, and the Templars, for some reason, wink wink nudge nudge, for some reason had a deep obsession with reaching the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. They wanted to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem specifically to go to the Temple Mount for some reason. Nobody really knew why. It was kind of opaque. Anyways, the Templars would get their opportunity when in 1098, Pope Urban II called for an armed pilgrimage to the Holy Land to reconquer the sacred city of Jerusalem from Muslim forces. And just like in real life, this is how the First Crusade begins. So we know how this story goes. We talked about it on a previous episode. Everything goes basically the same. The Crusaders...
Too bad we didn't get to get that Third Crusade episode in, but life got in the way.
Yeah, but the First Crusade basically goes the same way as it did in real life, with the addition of some Knights Templar who were, in this timeline, founded way too early, when in real life they weren't founded until after the First Crusade, but...
Okay, so I know we've explained timelines before, but you know how there's a lot of times in history where hey, this doesn't feel like they were happening at the same time, or one feels like it was from an earlier period of time in history. I feel like the founding of the Knights Templar would have been before the First Crusade, but it's not.
Yeah, because they were called the Templars because they were founded in the Temple Mount because the Christians were already in Jerusalem. So it had to have been after the First Crusade. But in this setting, they are founded before. I have some theories on why, mostly having to do with the fact that they didn't really think about it at the time they were making the lore, and then the game got popular and they had to rush to figure something out. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my theory. Anyways, so you get the Crusader states are founded, including the city, the Principality of Antioch. You get the Siege of Jerusalem in 1101, and it works out the same way that it does in our timeline. The Crusaders enter the city, and the streets run ankle deep with blood.
That's gory as fuck.
Yep, the Crusaders really did a number on Jerusalem. The Knights Templar occupy the Temple Mount, and underneath they discover a mysterious artifact. We don't know what this artifact is. We don't know what it looked like, what its nature was. All we know is that it prompted the Templars to fall to their knees and renounce their faith in God and pledge their souls to the demons of hell.
What the fuck?
And so with this mass slaughter...
I know you've given me a little bit of, Trench Crusade lore, But I was not expecting this shit. Wow.
So using the blood in the streets and the mass slaughter that had just taken place, they conduct a ritual which opens up a gate to hell on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And from this gate, hellish heat and power from the lake of fire destroys the city, and horrendous half-demon monsters
Shit.
rush out of the gate, out of the flames of hell, and start to spread across the area. And in a matter...
Truly hell on earth.
Literally hell on earth, yes. And in reward for this, what comes to be called the Act of Ultimate Heresy, the Lords of Hell, the demonic Lords of Hell, reward these Templars by promoting them, by gifting them with hellish powers and promoting them to titles, basically these positions in hell called heresiarchs. And they are now basically like the nobility of the human realms that are controlled by hell.
Okay.
In 1101, the forces of hell formally founded the Heretic Legions. And the... Oh, shit, what is it called? The Lords of the 66 are founded as made up of mortals who have pledged their souls to the demons of hell. And they establish a new power of human heretical opposition to the faithful in the Levant, based out of the area around Jerusalem. And they organize a military force called the Heretic Legions. The legions in 1101 march out and launch a campaign to conquer the lands in the Near East from the faithful, both Christian and Muslim. That year, 1101, is known as the Year of Three Battles. It's three battles in which the forces of the Christian and Muslim worlds were utterly destroyed. And all resistance in the Middle East basically comes crumbling down as the forces of hell march forward and conquer. The Christians are able to consolidate what remains of their forces around the Crusader city of Antioch, which is heavily fortified and becomes the focal point of resistance to the heretic invasion in 1102. Further east from there, the Sultan of Rum, which is the largest and most powerful Muslim force in the Middle East, would call for a great journey of all of the Muslim faithful on the planet to come to his lands in order to reinforce his armies to fight back the hordes of hell. In 1109, something happened. Lots of stuff was happening, but this is a big one. All of the Muslims in the Sultanate of Rum woke up one morning and there was a wall. A giant wall that stretched...
Like around the city? Where?
That stretched for hundreds and hundreds of miles across the Middle East from north to south, was over 60 feet tall, 100 feet tall in some places, and was made out of nearly impenetrable iron.
Fucking hell.
And they woke up, there was no wall one day, they woke up the next morning and there was a wall. And the wall was blocking the forces of hell from getting into their lands.
That's divine intervention if I ever seen it.
Absolutely, it is. God gifted them a great iron wall which stretched all the way across the Middle East in order to defend their lands. And this wall, called the Great Wall of Iskander, would prompt the Sultan of Rum to reform his state into a unified Muslim state that would become a patron of this wall and defend the lands of the Muslim faithful from the forces of hell. And this state came to be called the Great Sultanate of the Invincible Iron Wall of the Two Horns that Pierce the Sky. Also simply known as...
That is a wordy...
Kind of wordy. It's also just known as the Iron Sultanate. Which is a crazy good name.
Fair.
So, early on, a lot of Christians kind of struggled to come to terms with the reality of what was happening. Because, to be fair, this didn't make a lot of sense. They of course believed that that demons worked their evils on earth and influenced the souls of men to do bad things. But they were never this direct about it. They were never this in your face about it. And so a lot of Christians were like, this is simply a spiritual war. This won't be won with force of arms. This has to be won in a spiritual battle. And so a bunch of people, 17.
If I was there, this is me being sarcastic, I would have been like, bring out the Doom guy! The Doomslayer.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing. You got to remember, this is the Middle Ages. They don't have, like, TV.
Canonically, the Doomslayer was around in the Middle Ages, but that's because of time's fuckery.
Yeah. But, this is the Middle Ages. They don't have TV. They don't have radio. They don't have phone calls. They don't even have Telegram. They have guys telling stories.
They don't have the Doom guy, unfortunately.
They don't have Doom guy. Back in Europe, in the wider Christian world, all they have are like a bunch of stories, which they could write off as like, oh, for some reason there's a big like group of, heretics, people who reject God that are conquering Christian lands and in the Levant. And so 17 guys got together. They're referred to as the 17 martyrs.
Fuck.
For spoilers about where this goes. They got together and they declared in 1117 that they were going to go to the lands controlled by the heretics and they were going to proselytize and bring them back to God. They get there, they are immediately captured, tortured. They have magic done on them that traps them in the twilight between life and death, and then they are trapped in white-hot burning altars where they are stuck basically burning to death for the rest of eternity.
Whoa. That's sick for one. And I don't mean that in like a good way. I mean like,
yeah. Fast forward, 1165. And I'm getting a lot of this information from the timeline that is available in the Trench Crusade rulebook. So it's a lot of hopping from event to event. So I'm going to make a big jumps, but just keep in mind this entire time that I'm talking about, constant warfare. All the time, constant warfare. Yeah.
I imagine it's like never ending. Like I figure it's like in all of humanity versus demonkind until the it doesn't sound like the gates ever closed necessarily, but like since this happened, like it would be we're under siege, all of humanity versus the demons for the rest of time until the gates of hell are closed.
Yeah. Now keep in mind there are monsters and there are magics. There are no demons in this war because there are no angels in this war. Angels and demons both exist. They are not involved in the war. All of the demons are back in hell. All of the angels are back in heaven. It's kind of a Cold War situation with humanity being the proxies.
So what you're saying is that there's a global war going on, but the actual angels and demons are using humans as their proxies.
Yes. Yeah, it is a proxy war between heaven and hell. And the reason for that is because...
That would be inglorious agony.
Yeah, there is one short story that has been released about this lore that describes an angel coming to Earth. And simply the act of an angel appearing in the presence of mortals was the equivalent of like 30 nuclear bombs going off at once. Just being there.
That makes sense. Tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, an angel or a demon, my boy, an angel or a demon on Earth sitting on its ass doing nothing would cause more damage to the planet than every single weapon of mass destruction ever used in human history combined.
Yeah.
If angels and demons actually came to Earth and started like helping out and fighting, Earth would be gone in a matter of days. Earth would cease to exist.
I kind of feel like that's kind of represented in like Supernatural, because like a lot of angels and demons like can't bring their physical form, so they have to possess like that, and they're like proxying through humans. I know it's not the exact same, but yeah.
So instead, they help their mortal followers in other ways. For example, the forces of hell, the heretic legions, make use of artificial creatures like the artillery witches, which are artificial creations of the factories of Dis in, I believe, the fourth circle of hell, that are basically like automatons that can summon bombs, like artillery shells, in their hands and use psychic power to chuck them across the battlefield.
That's metal as fuck.
That's metal as fuck. They will also make artillery, or they will make werewolves, which are giant lumbering mutated wolves that are fitted with a bunch of armor, and their skulls are replaced with giant circular saws. And so they will run across the battlefield, and as they run, they will cut all of the barbed wire in their path and clear an opening for the infantry to come in behind them. The heretics also have they have artillery that are imbued with goetic runes. Goetic magic is the type of magic that's used by the mortal forces of hell. Some of these runes, when the artillery shell hits, the explosion speaks the language of God backwards. And so when the explosion...
So Goetic is basically the Pig Latin of Enochian?
Enochian is kind of like... Goetic isn't the backward language. It's just like the magical system that they use. Like the demonic magic that they use. But they do speak like... these artillery shells will speak anti-Enochian, and
okay, gotcha.
And when they explode, it unmakes creation in the blast radius. So if you're hit with one of these shells, not only are you ripped apart and like peeled apart layer by layer, once you're gone, it was like you never existed at all.
So your entire existence is erased from history.
Yeah, you were removed from creation. That's the kind of ways that hell is helping their mortals. Heaven is helping their mortals in weird ways. So first of all, the church has prophets. There are people that can listen to the whispers of God. God does not speak to them. God has not spoken to a human being for thousands of years. But God does still talk. And if you are...
So they're basically catching on they're not being talked to, but they're basically eavesdropping.
Yeah, they are eavesdropping. Literally, they have radio antennas to amplify the connection to God's voice. They have radio antennas that will pick up like the casual whispers of God that they can then pick up with their like sensitive psychic minds and translate into usable data, like usable like information on like heretic troop movements and things like that. And this is all coordinated through an organization called the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. And
I don't even think that's prophecy at that point, but God letting it happen, you could argue, yes.
as far as I'm aware, God is barely paying attention.
So what you're saying is at this point we are God's C- science fair project that got put on a shelf and forgotten?
It sure seems like that. It's very unclear. It's very unclear how actually involved God is on the side of... He seems a lot more involved with the Muslim side, honestly. He's made a lot of more direct... given more direct help to the Muslims than he has to the Christians.
Damn.
He gave the Muslims a big giant wall that they could use, and he caused a snowstorm in the Arabian Peninsula that's hiding the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, so the heretics can't reach it. So there's just been a perpetual sandstorm going on in Mecca and Medina, so that those cities can't be raided and corrupted by the heretic forces. So God is helping very directly with the Muslims, and then everything that Christians do, they kind of like stumble upon by accident. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a little bit. But in 1165, the heretics lay siege to the mountain fortress of Alamut. Do you know where Alamut is? Have you heard of the assassins? The Hashashin.
No.
Okay. In real life, they were a secretive sect of basically like a pseudo-Muslim cult that would basically like they'd smoke a bunch of weed.
I love how this starts.
Yeah, they'd smoke a bunch of weed and then they'd go and kill people that their cult leader told them to. And it was usually like...
As most cults do.
Yeah, and they were... They scared the shit out of people. Especially during the Third Crusade. There's one story where one morning Richard the Lionheart woke up in his tent and his guards were dead and there was a knife laying next to his head on his pillow.
Damn.
And it was a warning from the Hashashin. Like, we can reach you if we want. You better watch yourself if you don't do anything we don't like.
Back the fuck off.
Yeah. And they assassinated a lot of really prominent people, like, all throughout that period. So anyways, they're here. And they've uncovered the secrets to manipulating time. So their assassins are really good at assassinating people because they can literally be in two places at once and then slip off into the night, never to be seen again.
I mean, that's cheating, but whatever.
It's cheating, but it's sick as fuck. So anyways, the heretics put the fortress of Alamut on, which is also often called the Eagle's Nest. They put it under siege in 1165, and they failed disastrously. Whole cohorts, whole units, like...
Is it as bad as the Australian war against the emus?
Worse. A lot more people die.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, entire units of...
That's one of my favorite historical notes, is the Australian war versus the emus.
Yeah, and they would have won if that machine gun hadn't jammed, is the crazy thing.
Wait, there was a jam on, like, the emu war? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they herded, they were firing their machine guns, they herded the emus to a cliffside, and then one of the guys firing the machine gun jammed, so he stopped firing it, left an opening for the emus to escape. So they didn't have to go off the cliff.
That's fucking insane. I didn't know anything about the war. I just know there was a decisive victory for the emus.
Yeah, that's how they won. So yeah, the entire units of heretics would go into the mountains around the fortress of Alamut and just fucking disappear. Like, thousands of guys would go into the mountains and then just poof, gone. Never seen again. No bodies or anything. They just disappeared.
There was no proof of any deaths ever.
No proofs of any deaths. They just disappeared. Don't know where they went. I mean, surely they're dead, but we don't have the bodies. So yeah, the heretics have tried on and off to assault the fortress of.
Epstein got them. I'm sorry.
Epstein got them. Yeah, they're all in one cage under Little St. James. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So the heretics have tried repeatedly, on and off again, for the last 800 years to try and invade Alamut, and have failed every single time because they can't find the fucking place. Because the fortress is hidden. Because they're assassins and they're good at stealth.
Really good at stealth, apparently.
So in 1215, the nations of the Christian world, who up to this point had been, doing a pretty okay job of, not a great job, but an okay job of putting aside their petty differences and trying to fight back against the forces of hell, that ended. In 1215, you get the first of what's called the Wars of Triclavianism. Have you ever heard the word Triclavianism before?
Absolutely fucking not.
I hadn't either, which shocked me a little bit, because I thought I knew a lot about this stuff. This was esoteric even for me. Triclavianism goes back to an old debate in the Middle Ages, a theological debate about how many nails were used to crucify Jesus. And the disagreement was over what...
I thought it was 3.
That's one side of it. That's where the tri in Triclavianism comes from, because that's the official position of the church, is it was 3 nails. One in each hand, and then one through both feet. There was a heretical movement in the Middle Ages that said that no, there was 1 nail for each foot. There were 4 nails.
How would you make that work when it's a cross?
Well, it was just because both, when his feet were nailed into the post, they put the soles of his feet against the wood, and then they just drove a single nail into each foot, so like his knees were kind of bent.
No, that's the yeah, that makes the sense. But how would you have 1 for each foot if it's a cross? Is what I was getting at. Like, you would have to have the feet together to make it work with the way everything is presented.
Well, because there's enough room on the wood for both feet to be able to be side by side with each other.
Oh, was it that big?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was fucking huge. Yeah, that cross was like 14 or 15 feet tall.
Oh, shit. I always thought he was just barely off the ground.
Oh, no, he was up there. They needed like a huge giant spear to stab him. The spear that they stabbed him with was like 8 or 9 feet long. Like,
oh, damn, I didn't realize that. Fuck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was those crosses were tall. They had to be tall because they were displays. They're meant to display the people on them, so they had to be seen from like really far around. So yeah, they were thick pieces of wood that were used to hold them up. So yeah, there would have been room, but there was this theological debate in the Middle Ages over whether it was 4 nails or 3 nails, and the 4-nail position was the heretical position. So in 1215, the Christian nations erupt in an internal conflict over this debate. The resulting wars would last nearly a century and claim millions of lives.
Why not?
Why not? And while they were all bickering, the forces of hell decided to launch several massive offensives that cost further millions of lives and lost even more land.
Was this a debate in real life, too?
Yeah, not a serious one, but, it was something that the church addressed. Nobody, as far as I'm aware, nobody killed each other over it in real life, but it was an actual debate.
I'm sure there was a petty squabble, but there was no formalized like war.
There were there were there were definitely people imprisoned for heretical beliefs for promoting the idea that there were four nails. There, as far as I'm aware, there probably weren't anybody killed over it. Prison, yeah, maybe, but not killed. So the wars of Triclavianism die down, and by 1312, the church introduces. This is going to be weird. The church introduces the first communicants into the conflict, which helps stabilize the battlefront and bring back a stalemate between the faithful and the heretics. The communicants. First, let's start off with this. So, Jesus died, and then he rose from the grave. He stuck around for about 40 days. Then he ascended to heaven.
Shit, I always thought it was like a week after his. He stayed around for 40 days? In real life, right? Like in the official Christian belief? Okay.
Yeah, like in the Bible, it was. I'm pretty sure it was 40 days. So, there's no body of Jesus left. There was blood, though.
I bet you that's a very powerful holy artifact.
The church discovered the spear of Longinus. The spear that pierced the side of Christ on the cross. And they had his blood. So, the church also had some guys, they were monks, that had started to learn more about the processes of genetics.
Did they try and do basically what they do with the Primarchs in Marine soldiers with soldiers in real life with Jesus' blood?
You're really close. You're getting close to the head of the nail there, dude. So what these monks did, which these monks came to be the Order of Mendelist monks, they took the blood of Jesus off of this spearhead and they cloned him.
They fucking cloned Jesus?!
They cloned Jesus. And these clones came to be called the Metachrists. As far as I'm aware, there are either 7 or 9 Metachrists in present day. And, well, because, you know.
And their present day is like World War I time, correct?
Yeah, like 1914 is present day in the Trench Crusade setting. This what we're talking about right now is 1312. So they make clones of Jesus, but because DNA degrades, the clones came out.
It gets worse.
Deformed and imperfect.
We got mentally handicapped Jesus. I am going to edit that out.
They are not mentally handicapped, but physically they are like just... There's no descriptions given of them, but they are basically just like balls of sentient flesh. And, but they still...
They're not a human being at that point, is what you're saying.
They have the minds of human beings. The bodies are not quite human.
Okay.
Yeah. But because these are recreations of the Son of God, the flesh that they produce has it grows back if you take some of it off. So if you take some of that and take some of the blood, you know, like the body and blood of Christ, like communion, and you make a special serum out of it using some chemical alteration, you can inject that into a human being.
They created super soldier serum out of cloned Jesuses.
Yes. And those super soldiers who grow up to about 8 feet tall and are strong enough to pick up a tank, they are called communicants.
That's disturbing.
The process for becoming a communicant is only successful about 1 in 3 times, about 33% success rate.
It's better than creating a space marine.
It is actually better for a lot of space marines. That is a better statistical likelihood of success. A third of communicants when they go through the transformation, it just kills them. Their body cannot handle it. For another third of them,
excruciatingly, I bet.
Oh yeah, it's an excruciating process, and communicants, even if it's successful, they're in constant pain for the rest of their lives. The second third, their minds cannot cope with the stress of their transformation, and they go insane, and so they become completely useless as soldiers. The final third, very often are filled with an unsatiable rage and hatred for sin. And then in other cases, the process for taking in the body and blood of Christ causes their souls to be completely stripped of sin so that they're only left with pure innocence. And as a result, their brains revert to the pure innocence of a child.
So the options are to become Doomslayer, have your mind broken to be childlike, go insane, or die.
Yes. Yeah, being a communicant is not fun. And so the successful ones, regardless of whether they become grown children, or if they become murder monsters, they have nails nailed into their eyes because they don't need to see anymore because God shows them what's going on around them. They can just see with their mind's eye.
But what does it cause? Processing issues to have their eyes or some shit? Why would you need to get rid of the eyes though?
To show their faith. They'll have a crucifix nailed into their face, and the nails will go through their eyes. So, yeah, and those okay.
I knocked my trash can over when I got up.
Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, that's what communicants are. They're introduced to the battlefield in 1312, and they immediately help restabilize the battle line and bring the Great War back to a stalemate. We get to 1346. This is the crazy one. I mean, I've said a lot of crazy shit so far.
We're just now getting crazy, huh?
It just gets crazier and crazier from here. 1346. The demon lord Beelzebub, also known as the Lord of Flies. He makes his presence known to the faithful by launching a devastating plague across Christian lands. Tens of millions of people are infected, and when they're infected, they are turned into unwitting, rotting soldiers in Beelzebub's army. And they are organized into a group called the Cult of the Black Grail. And the disease is referred to as the Black Grail.
Okay.
This marks, in 1346, this marks the beginning of the Corpse Wars, which would rage in Europe for nearly a century. The Plague Wars would finally be brought to an end when the great hegemon of the Grail, Yersinia Rex, and a great hegemon is basically like Is
it like a tyrant from Resident Evil?
I don't know. I haven't played Resident Evil. It is, but a hegemon is a 100-foot tall monster that is made from the piled bodies of the Black Grail's victims. It's gruesome. It is the greatest creation of Beelzebub and one of the strongest armies, or one of the strongest weapons that the forces of hell has at their disposal. And there have been 2 hegemons that have ever been summoned. So there have been two hegemons of the Grail. And I'm just now remembering, I forgot to mention something important about the communicants. So for the communicants, sometimes the communion process goes really, really well. And what you get out of the process is what's basically like a perfect soldier. They are 14 feet tall. They are basically like one-person armies. They can take on entire armies on their own. They have magical powers from God. And they are the only mortal beings on the faithful side that are able to go into hell and survive.
Damn.
Yeah.
So they're built different.
They're built different. There have been 12 of them, and they're called the Paladins. One of them has died. They were killed while fighting. They died after successfully killing.
That reminds me of one old boy from Warhammer that went into the warp and keeps popping out, like the one Primarch, and just beating the shit out of Chaos.
Not a Primarch, the Grand Marshal of the Grey Knights, Kaldor Drago. Yeah.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so one of the
So what you're saying is there were 12 Kaldor Dragos that were just in this universe. Just
literally yes, because each of them goes into, like, they will make expeditions to hell to go and kill a target or sabotage some building in hell, like a factory or something, and then they can come back. So they pop in and out of hell. One paladin has been killed. They were killed while fighting the first Grail hegemon, and I can't remember her name right now, but she's referred to as the Bride of Beelzebub. And she was slain by this paladin, who then succumbed to his own wounds. Another paladin is missing. Officially, the church doesn't know what happened to him. Unofficially, what probably likely happened is he betrayed the church, he betrayed the faith, and now fights for hell.
I thought they were without sin. How could they betray the church?
Well, you'll find out. You'll find out going through a lot of this history that the being without sin does not necessarily guarantee that you will always be without sin. In fact, one of Hell's favorite pastimes is finding living saints. So people who have been declared and canonized saints while they're still alive, because they have like obvious special power or attention.
Does that happen more in the Trench Crusade universe, like living saints?
Oh yeah. There's
because I don't think that happens hardly ever here at all. Actually, in
it is, as far as I'm aware, it's never actually happened in real life. But in Trench Crusade, yeah, there's living saints all over the place. Still rare, but there's a lot of them, relatively speaking. But yeah, so anyways, so that was the first great hegemon. The second great hegemon of the Grail was named Yersinia Rex, and he was slain in battle by the living saint Joan of Arc.
But of course Joan of Arc was a living
saint. And she led the forces of Christendom in a successful campaign to kill the great hegemon and finally drive the Black Grail out of mainland Europe for good. Mostly. There's still one little enclave of the Black Grail left in Europe, and that is that is in the city of Avignon, where the cult of the Black Grail has set up an anti-pope.
But of course there's an anti-pope.
So the next event that happens in the Trench Crusade timeline...
Hopefully it's better than the real-life anti-pope.
No, he's much worse.
I meant better as in, like, cool.
He fucked a pig and had a bunch of...
The anti-pope in real life was kind of... You start off with fucked a pig!
Yeah, that's... Yeah, he was like the Bishop of Avignon, and he got mad that he wasn't getting promoted in the church. So he turned his back on the church and invited the Black Grail into his city, and he became their leader by having sex with a pig, and the pig gave birth to a bunch of monsters.
Takes pig fucker to a whole new level.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to use that as an insult the next time I play a guy with Black Grail models. I'm going to call his models pig fuckers, especially if he's playing Dirge. Dirge is they're the warband variant that is based out of Avignon. So the next event in the timeline of Trench Crusade occurs in 1477. This is the entire entry I'm about to tell you right now. The city of Argos is taken by God and is no more.
So I'm imagining the same style of was it Elijah or the person who got transported straight to heaven?
I think that was Elijah. Yeah. Yeah. That's the main theory, is that because Argos was a city in Greece, I think, which is right on the Eastern Mediterranean. It is right there next to the heretic-controlled Levant. The main theory is that God saw their faith and just decided to save them from the torment of the heretics by just snapping his fingers, and poof, the entire city was transported up into heaven. That's the main theory. We have no idea, because that's literally the only line on this event. We have no idea what happened to Argos.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a church psyop and they were just all dragged to hell.
That's a common thing you're going to come across. A lot of this shit, like I said, it's biased. A lot of this shit is probably just church propaganda. So yeah, like everything I'm telling you, take with a grain of salt. In 1503, a war prophet by the name of Angelos received visions from Saint Elegius. And Elegius revealed to him the process for creating a new type of metal alloy called orichalcum. And orichalcum is a metal that is so strong that it can stop bullets and shrapnel. And so today it is now used from that point forward, it was used in the armor of the faithful, as basically like bulletproof armor. So that's the reason why in 1914 you still see guys in like knight armor, because the armor is actually practical, because it can stop bullets. Okay, this is one of the biggest events in the timeline, what we're talking about here.
In real life, orichalcum was just like copper or alloys of brass.
Yeah, they figured that out, but back in medieval Europe, they had no idea what it was. They thought it was some sort of like magical super metal, because they saw Romans and Greeks talking about it and all this stuff that they wrote about. And it turns out it was basically just like a bronze alloy, which is good, but it was good for the time. It was just an old technology by the time that they were like talking about it. Anyways, 1545, the city of Antioch, the last holdout of Christian resistance to the heretic invasions, is completely destroyed.
Damn.
Now, I want to give you a guess real quick. How do you think the city was destroyed? Keep in mind, the year is 1545.
Other than like those bomber things, that's the only thing I can imagine.
It was nuked. 1545.
Like nukes?
So, it doesn't explicitly use the word nuclear anywhere, or atomic. There's a great explosion that utterly devastates the city. leaves a giant crater, and the survivors, as they're picking through the rubble, start to suffer from a sickness that is caused by the horrific aura that is left from the explosion.
Yeah, that's a nuke.
It's just a nuke. Hell had a nuke. And here's the thing. Never used it again. Hell had the capacity to make one nuclear bomb.
Hell had access to nukes, but used it once. What the fuck?
There is actually on...
I'd be dropping those shits left and right if I was Hell.
We have no idea why they only used it once. We don't know if they just, lost the technology or what they did with it. But there is, on the tabletop, there's a special item that you can equip your models with. It's a weapon called a demonic aura grenade. And it's said to use the same technology that was used to destroy Antioch. And the way that the grenade works is that it completely ignores cover. It completely ignores any other modifiers. The blast ignores armor. And in the description of the weapon, when it explodes, it releases an aura that causes anybody in the proximity to immediately just start melting. And their hair falls out, their skin starts to slough off.
That's a nuke.
It's nuclear. Hell has atomic weapons.
Did they not have to deal with lingering radiation or anything?
But for some reason, they've only used one of the big ones once, and they don't know where the demonic aura grenades come from. Some heretic warbands just have them, and they don't know if they're still being produced or if these are old relics or what's going on with that. We don't know what's going on with that technology. It could still be out there somewhere. They might still be preparing to use it on something. Why they haven't used it again, nobody knows.
We're assuming demonic nukes radiation works the same.
So anyways, the survivors in Antioch would continue to fight off the heretic forces in the ruins of the city for years afterwards. And in the meantime, the Christian nations of Europe would come together in 1559 at a meeting called the Sword Congress of Vienna. And they would agree that Antioch was too important to the defense of Europe to be allowed to fall. Because they're just coming out of the corpse wars. They've seen what hell does when it comes to mainland Europe. They don't want it. They want the fighting to be done over in Antioch. So they all agree they're going to contribute everything they possibly can to rebuild Antioch bigger and better and to keep it filled with guys willing to kill heretics.
Time to purge the heretics, brother.
And so they do just that. They rebuild the city. They build the walls 10 times higher and fill it with all of the toughest sons of bitches in the Christian world with all of the best weaponry that they can possibly equip them with. And they christen this rebuilt city New Antioch. And so to this day, New Antioch, which is also referred to as the home of all our hopes. Maybe. Who the fuck knows? At this point, New Antioch is so fucking industrialized, over-industrialized, that whatever they're breathing from the air is probably worse than any radiation that would still be lingering around. But right, yeah. So 1595, construction is completed. The city would be rechristened New Antioch, nicknamed the home of all our hopes. And to this day, its great walls have never once been breached, despite numerous sieges by the heretics. However, purge the heretics. Meanwhile, while Antioch was still kicking ass and getting rebuilt, the heretics took advantage of the weakened state of the Christian forces to go up into Anatolia and conquer what remained of the Byzantine Empire. And so between the 1540s and the 1570s, the Byzantine Empire was completely conquered and Constantinople was burned to the ground. You're going to love this bit. In 1573, the heretics attempt to push west from the ruins of Constantinople in order to invade Europe. They are stopped dead in their tracks The entire invasion force, millions of troopers, are stopped dead in their tracks by a mysterious order of knights called the Sacred Order of the Dragon.
I just love dragons.
Which is led by a prince who is said to have a taste for human flesh.
Demons are stopped by a fucking cannibal!
Not a cannibal. Rumors spread across Europe that millions of heretic soldiers have been impaled, and the hills of Wallachia run red with rivers of blood.
Holy shit, Dracula stops the hell!
Dracula stopped a heretic invasion.
I did not have that on my bingo card! I did not have that on my bingo card!
You didn't see Dracula coming, did you?
No one sees Dracula coming!
No one sees Dracula coming. He's moving like Oppenheimer.
Jesus Christ.
He keeps that registered God particle on his hip. I knew you were going to love that one. That's one of my... I'm so excited. I'm pretty sure that the Order of the Dragon is going to be a variant when they release the Crusader Knights faction, which is a faction that they're working on. So, in 1588, with the destruction of the Byzantine Empire, the remnants of the Eastern Orthodox Church would merge with the Catholic Church in Rome to establish the Unified Church, also called the New Orthodox Church. They would release a new holy text, which was called the New Orthodox Syncretic Bible. And this new Bible would combine both, like the Old and New Testaments would still be in there, and it would combine it with a number of new texts that would be written by prophets since the beginning of the Great War. So I'm gonna give you, actually on my my animated wallpaper, I actually have a quote from the New Orthodox Syncretic Bible, a passage. The rifle and the trench club are prepared against the day of battle, but vengeance is of the Lord. Battle Psalms, chapter 17, verse 7. Oh, wrong one. There we go. So yeah,
That's metal.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the church in this setting, it's not really the real life church. They don't have the same beliefs as the real life church. This is a church that went down a different historical path, and so as a result,
they're more focused on kicking ass and taking names than they are about religious doctrine.
Yeah. Yeah, and something like, they really don't emphasize like the sexism stuff a lot in this setting, because they don't care who you are, man or woman. If you can pick up a rifle and...
A warm body to kill demons is a warm body to kill demons.
Yeah, that goes for the church. It goes for the Sultanate. Obviously, the heretics are fine with women going in and doing what they do in the heretic legions. I don't know, skinning babies or something like that. So the year now. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that the year 1666 was a good year for the Christians?
Fuck no.
Absolutely not. That year is referred to as the Year of Six Woes. That year, the heretics launched a massive campaign with their newly built navy, devastating faithful supply lines and eventually capturing Gibraltar, which is that bit at the very bottom of Spain. So they're not just in the Middle East now. They're not just in the Levant. Now they're in Spain. And to this day, Gibraltar is now basically the headquarters for all heretic attempts to invade the European mainland. And it also gives them complete unrestricted access to the Atlantic Ocean, which they have completely utterly controlled with their navies ever since.
Does America / the New World ever come up in this setting? Because, I don't see how we ever discover the Americas if we're constantly at war.
It's been mentioned. It's been mentioned that there is some trade between the kingdom in Spain and native nations in the New World, but there's been, as far as we're aware,
But it never really gets colonized, I'm
there's
guessing?
never really been like colonization, as it were. Um, there's a lot of speculation about like like diseases from first contact and like how the Black Grail would play into that and stuff like that. But there's nothing concrete, and there's not going to be, because the creators of the games deliberately said we're not going to touch America. We're not going to deal with that shit.
Cowards.
Yeah, I think their attitude is kind of, we have a hard enough time researching cultures that we're familiar with in order to represent them respectfully in our setting. We're not even going to attempt it with Native Americans.
To be fair, trying to like truly global setting, like in this kind of thing, and thinking about how things would have to just develop different, it's better to limit your like areas, like
Yeah, yeah. Like how do you expect a bunch of white Americans and Europeans to like accurately and respectfully portray, like, say, like the Aztecs in a setting like this, where all sides are essentially like evil in some regard or manner, without just playing into racist stereotypes? I wouldn't trust myself to do that. And as far as yeah
that's a smart way of looking at it. Like they that, and like I mentioned, it's just probably simpler to keep the setting neat and tidy to the European slash, like, that land mass area is probably just easier to keep it tight there.
yeah they're keeping it, they're keeping it pretty compact to the to like the Mediterranean, which is, I respect and I appreciate. So, with the heretics' complete unfettered control of the Atlantic Ocean, they have the ability to launch naval raids all across the European coast, including now into Northern Europe, which means that nations like England, Scotland, Ireland are now at risk and being threatened by these naval raids when they hadn't previously before. And that prompted the Crown of England, the kingdom in England, to basically like take a complete isolationist policy. And they started constructing a bunch of forts just all along their coastlines, and built one giant super fortress on the White Cliffs of Dover. And they would keep themselves completely isolated, even as their neighbors in Ireland and Scotland were being occupied and massacred by heretic naval raiders. So, in this setting, in real life, Irish and Scottish people hate England because England kept coming into their country when they didn't want them to. In this setting, Ireland and Scotland hate England because they wouldn't come into their country when they wanted them to.
That's so ironic.
Yeah. This was one of my favorite ones. Not a lot of information about this event, but I really like the implications, and I'm excited to see what comes of it. In 1703, the Templar
Apologies, can I pause you
of...
right here before you get into this? So this is an official like thing of like collaboration between two different animes that I saw, and it released a lot of trauma tension. Do you remember Full Metal Alchemist, where the girl gets combined with the dog?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. Yep.
There's an official like mini clip where Doraemon goes and unfuses them, and it's just, I refuse to believe that's not canon now, because I need a happy ending for her. Well,
see, that's fair. But I'm into I'm into IPs like Warhammer and Trench Crusade, so I'm going to choose to say that's not canon.
It's fine. Our canons can convict, but she didn't deserve that fate.
She didn't. And the tragedy is what makes me enjoy it.
I will still take any day of the week if I ever get transported and have to go throw hands with any Animator character. I'm throwing hands with Shao Tucker.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I agree with you. So, 1703. Okay, I want you to, as I'm saying these dates, I want you to think about kind of like what technology and what society in real life kind of looked like during these periods, and kind of keep that in mind when you're trying to like imagine what the world looks like. So, like previously 1666, thinking about heretic naval raiders, what did ships look like at that period? We're talking like early galleons. We're like and caravels, like the wooden boats with like the tall square sails and the triangle sails at the front. But then imagine these are heretic ships, so they're covered in like mutilated bodies that are twisted into effigies in like mocking Christ, and their sails are black and covered in goetic runes and sigils and shit like that. And as they go, like I like to imagine like as these ships are like moving through the water, there's just like the water turns red with blood as they cut through the waves, and there's just a trail of blood following the ships wherever they go. It's fucking awesome. Metal as shit. Spikes everywhere. Just so many goddamn spikes on these ships.
Heads on pikes everywhere.
Heads on pikes for days. So 1703. What does technology look like for you? Like, what do you imagine in 1703?
I think of like that ship where they always like show Christopher Columbus in.
That would be a lot earlier. That'd be like 200 years earlier. So those kinds of ships were like way out of date.
I thought he came in 1700s.
Columbus, 1492.
Fuck.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
That tells you how bad I am.
You never got the...
That shows you how bad I am. No, my brain replaced the numbers in my head.
Yeah, Columbus sailed the...
As you should know with any person.
Yeah. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1942.
Okay. If I'm correcting it in my head, I think of, what we think of as pirate ships, like, like it's got the cannons and all that. That's the best description I've got.
Yeah. Real life, 1703 would have been around the time that like the stereotypical pirates were active.
Well, I was thinking media pirate ships, but yeah.
Yeah, but think like this is when like this is slightly like a decade before Blackbeard would have been active.
Okay.
So imagine kind of that era. 1703, the Templar stronghold. Remember, Templars, the guys who caused all of this in the first place, they're heretics now. The Templar stronghold of Acre.
That's so weird to think of as the Knights Templar being the bad guys.
Yeah. And boy, it comes up a lot. The Muslims really hate Christians for starting all of this shit in the first place.
This is your fault, motherfucker.
That's literally like, you caused this shit, now we have to clean it up. But 1703, the Templar stronghold of Acre, which is in the Levant, is destroyed in a raid by the Hebrew Knights.
The what?
The Hebrew Knights. Bro.
Explain now, history man.
That's it. That's what's there. That's the information. Hebrew is Jewish. They're Jewish knights.
That's all we know. There are Jewish knights running around.
It's speculated that eventually Jewish factions will be playable on the tabletop, but at the moment, that is all the information we have so far. There are Hebrew knights, which are Jewish knights. They're active somewhere in the Levant, and also there's a large community of Jews in Prague, and they make war golems for the faithful.
Ooh, I want to see Trench Crusade's version of golems now.
Ooh, I can show you one kind. There's a model for some golems that are used. Hold on. Oh God, what is it called? I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember what the model is called. Hold on. Oh, it'll be on the mercenaries. Hold on. God damn it. Warbands, mercenaries, biologist, warlock, Mamluk, ammo monk, observer, scripture guardian. That's what it's called. So I'll send you a picture of a scripture guardian real quick, which is a type of golem. Okay, there is one type of golem. It's not the only type, but it's the only one that we have artwork for.
That is grotesque.
It is grotesque.
Not like in a body horror way, just like it's unsettling.
Yeah, I love these things make such great memes because the way that they work is they will take on the characteristics of whatever religious text you give it, and so it can be used by any force in the Crusades, Christian, Muslim, or heretic. So you can give it a Bible; it'll be like a Christian scripture guardian. If you're Muslim, you can give it a copy of the Quran; it'll be a Muslim scripture guardian. Or you can give it like a Goetic rune book or like a Necronomicon or whatever shit. Give it to this thing, it'll be like a hell golem. And so one of my favorite activities is to think about what would happen if you gave other kinds of books to like, imagine how...
I want to imagine a Shinto one. I know it has nothing to do with that universe. I just, like, completely different.
I like to imagine, like, how nice would this scripture guardian be if you gave it, like, a copy of The Very Hungry Caterpillar? Or, like...
That, or you would get an an all-devouring, endless, bottomless pit that I must eat and consume all.
Yeah, or you give it a copy of Harry Potter and it just starts ranting about trans people in women's bathrooms.
You create the first turf golem.
Yeah, you give it a copy of...
Oof.
You give it a copy of Atlas Shrugged and it becomes really attracted to minors. Oof. Anyways, yeah, so I'm excited when they start introducing Jewish factions. When they bring in Hebrew Knights, I am immediately building a warband for it. I am so hyped for it. 1789. 1789. Heretic raiders land in the Highlands of Britain, controlled by the Kingdom of Alba, which is Scotland, resulting in decades of brutal guerrilla warfare until the heretics are finally expelled. Soon after, in 1807, the island of Eire, or Ireland, would come under the occupation of the heretic Basilisk fleet, launching a century-long guerrilla war which would finally end in 1892 after the ascension of Queen Brigid to the throne of Eire. Using her political cunning and strategic brilliance, she launched an insurgent campaign which eventually killed the commander of heretic forces in Ireland and closed the Hellgate that had opened up in order to subjugate the Irish people back in 1807. And in 1892, the heretics were finally driven from the Emerald Isle. So even in this setting, the Irish ended up being a colonized people and ended up coming out the other side like the most badass people on the planet.
Because you can't take the Irish out of the man.
In 1870, the heretic fleets launched their brand new technology. Submarines. The heretic submarine fleets would devastate faithful supply lines and bring the seas under pretty much complete control of the forces of hell, including the Mediterranean. Using this advantage, they would launch their first large invasion of mainland Europe in over a century when they would capture and occupy the Croatian port of Rijeka. Or Rijeka, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And they would use Rijeka as a launching point for further land offensives into mainland Europe. And at this point, they have gotten as far as northern Italy, and the city of Venice is now under occupation by the heretic forces. Which is uncomfortably close to Rome, and the church is not happy about it.
Well, of course not.
Of course not. In 1894, we see a major setback for the forces of the faithful, which is referred to as the Year of the Broken Trinity. That year, 3 heretic death commandos. Such an edgy fucking name. A death commando.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking edgy.
Basically, in the lands controlled by hell, if somebody is orphaned, that orphan will be taken and thrown into the hell portal.
What?
If that child is strong enough to survive, then they will be trained in the circle of wrath in hell by the soul of a great killer. And they will be trained in how to be stealthy and how to slaughter people. And then when they come back out as adults, they have armor like drilled into their skin. Their limbs are like deformed and mutated so that they're longer and more lithe. And they're fitted with what's called a stealth generator. Which a stealth generator, I'm not sure how it works, but
turns them invisible.
Kind of. It can turn them invisible under certain conditions, but the main thing that it does is it hides them from the eyes of God. So God cannot see a death commando, which means that God cannot whisper about where a death commando is coming to the church's prophets, which means that they have no idea when a death commando is coming to kill someone, which makes them the perfect assassins.
I mean, yeah, that'll do it.
So in 1894, a trio of 3 death commandos launch a simultaneous missions which successfully assassinate the Pope, the church's chief prophet, and the Holy Roman Emperor, all in one day. And it drives the forces of the faithful into complete chaos. And in the chaos and the political turmoil that comes up, the heretics are able to launch further invasions using yet another new technology they've just developed called tanks.
Damn.
And so they launch lightning tank offensives that across the Iberian Peninsula, the Balkans, and in the Levant against New Antioch. I'm just going to drop this one. In 1899, the church launches its space program.
Do the fuck what? Explain now, miniature man!
No, there's, like I said, no further elaboration. It's just in the timeline. I don't know if this was a joke or if...
So we know jack shit.
We know jack shit. I don't know if this was a joke or if somebody actually genuinely hinted that this might be the possibility. But somebody mentioned that people
almost a full 100 years before real life got shit into space, this fucked up timeline was able to do space theoretically.
In 1899, yeah. Yeah, so the church does have like satellites and shit. What my main theory is that they're using satellites to like channel the voice of God to make their prophets more accurate, because they have antennas that can help with that. Literally antennas that help them hear the voice of God. I heard somebody say once, and I don't think this is true, but I heard a rumor that there is a portal to heaven on the moon. Which is probably not true, but that's what I heard. Just like there's a portal to hell on Earth, there's a portal to heaven on the moon. Probably not true, but I thought it was funny. Here's the next weird one. In 1907, the Crown of England completes the floating fortress of Britannia. The floating fortress of Britannia. Yep. The floating fortress of Britannia is a ship. It is the largest ship ever constructed in the history of the human race. It has the firepower to destroy entire armies with a single salvo. It doubles as an aircraft carrier. And this is the real fucked up part. It can go on land.
What?
It can go on land because it floats in the air. Don't ask me how, but it can. Yeah. So, the last big major event to happen in the timeline before we get to modern day 1914 was in 1910, the Battle of Cordoba ends in a stalemate. The forces of the heretic heretic forces in Iberia have moved up from Gibraltar and attempted to strike into the Spanish the Spanish heartlands, but were stopped at the siege of Cordoba. The city was completely destroyed by heretic artillery, but they have been successfully stopped. And now on all fronts, the war is settling into an uncanny stalemate where nobody really has the advantage and are just throwing bodies at one another, trying to find any scrap of land that they can get.
Flight. Well, not space flight, but space shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we were at we just got through the Battle of Cordoba. So at this point, the battle lines are stagnating, and you're seeing warfare. It's 1914, is modern day in this setting, and it looks like World War I. All of the fronts have stagnated. Both sides are digging into these long, complicated trench lines full of bunkers and pillboxes. Artillery barrages are going day and night all over the place. And at this point, all of the forces are sending out small war bands all throughout no man's land in order to go and hunt down and to scout for strategic advantages, to hunt down ancient relics of power, new weapons, just whatever advantage they can possibly find in no man's land. And that's the situation that we're in at this point. And then I'm just gonna briefly talk about just a general overview of a few of the factions that you're kind of finding in the Great War at this point. Obviously, you have the forces of New Antioch. The Principality of New Antioch has the largest standing military on the planet because they get forces from every country in the Christian world, sends them money, weaponry, soldiers, anything that they could need to keep fighting. And you have a bunch of different types of forces kind of fighting for the Duke of New Antioch, Duke Constantine the 11th. You have the Era Rangers, who are experts at guerrilla warfare and light infantry tactics from Ireland. You have the assault detachments of the Kingdom of Alba, Scotland, who are experts with like mechanized infantry. So like especially guys and like they've got these special battle suits called they're called mechanized heavy infantry, and there's these guys in these giant like knight-looking battle suits that are run on diesel engines, and it's a whole complicated thing. There's a lot of lore to those guys, but the Scots like those a lot. The Kingdom of Abyssinia, which is Ethiopia in Africa, they send every 10 years they send expeditionary forces to help New Antioch, and they're experts at like medium to long range riflery, and they have expert swordsmen who called the Chua, who basically like cut their teeth fighting lions. That's how they get toughed up, and then they go and they put those melee skills to the test against heretics. You have the intervention forces of the Papal States. So the Pope has his own elite soldiers from the Swiss Guard that will go to New Antioch and help fight for the church's interests. And then outside of officially sanctioned military forces, oh yeah, you also have the Free State of Prussia. You're gonna like this one. Prussia, you know what Prussia is. Like Frederick the Great.
Yep.
In this setting, Prussia is the only democracy.
What?
Yeah, it's the only democracy in the setting.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it happened on accident.
That's how democracy usually happens.
Because the Prussian Junkers, the nobility, broke away. They seceded from the Holy Roman Empire, and in order to legitimize their secession, they held a plebiscite, which is where they brought all of the people of all of the common people in Prussia together and had them vote on whether or not they wanted to secede, just so they could have like a rubber stamp from their own population and say, see, this is what the people want. Our secession is legitimate based on what the needs of the people are. And then after that, they tried to just go back to ruling like normal. And the Prussian people were like, hey, I really liked voting. I want to keep doing that. And so the nobles were like, no, you can't do that. You can't do it. That was a one-off thing. You can't keep doing that. And so then there was almost like a revolution in Prussia. So then the Junkers conceded, and they formed a democratic parliament called the Landrat, and representatives to the Landrat are elected by popular vote. So yeah, they give New Antioch what are called the Stoßtruppen, or the shock troopers, and they are expert. Basically, like they get like submachine guns and flamethrowers and axes, and they go and they storm into the trench and they kill everything in sight. They're really good at that, and they have sick fucking models, dude. They were the first plastic kits that that they released for Trench Crusade, were the Prussian Stoßtruppen, and they look so good. There's one guy playing a Glockenspiel. It's great. I fucking love them. They've got swords. They've got swords called tank splitters, because they're made of an orichalcum alloy that has a monomolecular edge, so that it can cut through metal plating. And they use it to destroy heretic tanks with a sword, just a giant sword. It's fucking sick. I love them to death.
I mean, it does sound sick as fuck.
Yeah. Outside the sanctioned forces of the church, you have the Trench Pilgrims. And they're basically just a bunch of murder hobos that put on like iron cone, like they're called iron capirotes, they're just like these cones that they put over their heads, and each cone has a relic of a saint in it, and the magic and the power from that saint's relic takes all of the fear away from them, so that when they go into battle, they don't have any fear.
So perfect born like cannon fodder.
Yeah, yeah, they're an entire faction of cannon fodder. They have nuns. They're called stigmatic nuns that are constantly bleeding from stigmata, which stigmata are the wounds that Christ experienced during his crucifixion. So like the thorn crown, the blood on his head from the thorn crown, the holes in his hands and feet, and the spear.
I've only heard of the hands and feet being called stigmata, but that could just be me not knowing as much religious dogma.
Yeah, all of the wounds that Jesus experienced in his crucifixion are referred to as stigmata. So the stigmatic nuns have stigmata that are constantly bleeding all of the time, and
Do they only experience all? Do they experience all of Jesus's wounds, or just parts of it?
it depends because some of them don't even experience Jesus wounds; they experience the wounds of the Metacrists.
That's fucked.
Whatever wounds that the Metachrists experience, like in their process of having the communicants like communion taken from them, their nuns will experience that as well, and they'll have like these bleeding, weeping wounds at all times. So it depends. Like in a lot of the artwork, there's just like a nun with a knight's helmet on, and there's just blood like crying out of the eye holes, and then just like pouring out of the bottom of the helmet all over her torso. She's also naked. A lot of stigmatic nuns go into battle completely naked, and there are naked models as well, miniature models. They also have they're also the main ones that use communicants. So if you want to run if you want to fight with communicants, you go and join the Trench Pilgrims. They also have every Trench Pilgrim warband is led by a war prophet who is an actual prophet who can hear the voice of God, and they preach the word of God as they're fighting from loudspeakers that can get up to like 140 decibels. Like they're blowing out. Like if you're standing next to a war prophet,
shit. If you're staring too close, you're being eviscerated.
Yeah, like your ear, it literally destroys people's eardrums being close to war prophets because of how loud they're screaming.
That would, like, if you're too close to that, you would physically die. You would have...
Oh yeah, they kill people with it all the time. Yeah, the words of a war prophet, and it's not just the noise either. It's like the power of the word of God can just like pop people's brains. They also have one of my favorite models. It's the Shrine Anchorite. It's a giant mech. It's a mech that looks. It's just like a round metal tub with arms and legs that in one hand holds a giant mace and in the other hand has a breaking wheel as a shield. And before battle, members of Trench Pilgrim warbands will fight for the honor of being broken on that wheel. So they will literally like try to like wrestle with one another in the mud for the privilege of being able to be sacrificed on the wheel. And whoever wins, the anchorite will lay them out and will smash all of their limbs until all of the bones in their limbs are just complete dust and their limbs are all jelly. And then their limbs will be wound around the spokes of the wheel and they'll just become part of the wheel. And when they go into battle, the sacrifice of this living pilgrim broken on the wheel attracts the attention of God. And so every bullet and shrapnel that comes toward the Shrine Anchorite is redirected mid-air to hit the guy on the shield instead.
So with this much death, they gotta be breeding like motherfuckers, right?
Oh, I bet they're having kids all the time. Also, they have the Mendelist monks, so they're probably maybe do some cloning stuff. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I imagine there's a little bit of
6 kids Catholic.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's the phrase from the Bible? Go forth and multiply. A lot of that going on.
There's probably not a whole lot of contraceptions in this universe.
Oh yeah, no, contraception. They don't fucking allow contraception. Are you fucking kidding me?
You probably get shot in the head for pulling out in this universe.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, you have, as far as different warbands go, you have the Procession of the Sacred Affliction, which is an order of trench pilgrims that believe that leprosy is a holy disease, and anybody who has leprosy
But of course,
is blessed. And so every member of the warband has leprosy. And also, they like to kill heretics by tying millstones around their necks and then dropping them into puddles so that they drown.
Jesus Christ.
And so they actually just like this morning released models for Sacred Affliction, and they all have these millstones on them. It's fucking great.
That's insane.
You've got the War Pilgrimage of Saint Methodius, and the Methodians are they really like those shrine anchorites, and they're like basically like the brainiacs of the trench pilgrims. So they're expert engineers, so they get access to a bunch of better weaponry like machine guns, extra machine guns, and things like that, and they get a bunch of shrine anchorites. And they can give their shrine anchorites special weapons like mortar launchers and like gas sensors and like giant flamethrowers and things like that. They're really cool. I really like they're really fun. I might eventually make a warband for them eventually because I really like anchorites. And then you have the Cavalcade of the 10th Plague. They're the most normal of the trench pilgrims. Like they'll sacrifice a lamb before they go into battle, and then the lamb will keep them from will protect them from harm. Like it'll like curve bullets around them and shit like that. They're kind of boring compared to the other ones, I think. You've got the Iron Sultanate, the Muslim forces, and they've got three main things that they do. They've got the Defenders of the Iron Wall, which basically like their infantry, they're called Azebs. Give them a bunch of really big long-range guns, and then give them a cannon, and
Bitches love cannons.
set them up. Yep, and then set them up on high ground, and then shoot anything that moves. I'm moving like Oppenheimer. Yeah, the Defenders of the Iron Wall, they're fun. They're a pain in the fucking ass to play against. I am so goddamn pissed off every time I play against them. Because this one guy I play against sometime, he'll just give his Azebs like 3 siege Giselles, set them up in a building, and then just keep firing like +1 injury shots at all of my big guys until I'm wiped off the board. It pisses me off every time. You get the Fidai of Alamut, which are the Cabal of Assassins. Each one of their warbands is led by a master assassin, and they get a whole bunch of special abilities having to do with like manipulating time, basically, and stealth stuff. So like the master assassin gets this special ability where when your assassin charges another model, you can do a special action where you can charge 2 different models in the same activation in 2 different places and attack both of them at the same time, because the assassin can be at 2 places at once. And it's really cool. It's really cool. And then the House of Wisdom is probably my favorite one. It's based on a real thing. There's a big like university in Baghdad in the Middle Ages called the House of Wisdom, the Bait al-Hikmah. And in this setting, they specialize in alchemy. The Iron Sultanate loves alchemy. Their warbands are led by alchemists, and their alchemists can make homunculi. So each alchemist has like a silly little guy that comes along with them and can like shoot people, but also like helps them do all of their lab work and stuff. And then also it's the alchemists that make a bunch of units that any warband in the Iron Sultanate can take. But they like using homunculi a lot. They've got like the Lions of Jabir, which are, I love the Lions of Jabir because they see, when you look at them, they just look like ruthless, mindless monsters. And then you actually read about them and they're like, really, they're all very intelligent. They're all made very intelligent so that they can be like strategic planners on the battlefield. But then in their downtime, they're all like amateur philosophers. And they're all like there's a little short story that somebody put out about them where they're like conscious of their own lack of a soul, and they discuss like the existential implications of that with one another on their downtime, and they talk about like philosophy and theology and things like that, and it's really interesting. They're really cool. And then you have bigger ones that are just mindless brutes. They're the brazen bulls, giant fucking like homunculus monsters that have like giant cannons built into their arms. Really cool. I really love them. And then you get to the forces of hell. My faction that I play are Heretic Legion. I love me some heretics. I am a diehard heretic player until the day I die. I love them so much. You've got your regular heretics. You got like your baseline troopers. You can upgrade your troopers with like if a trooper goes on a pilgrimage to the Hellgate in Jerusalem, then they get like special privileges and special training from their patron demon lord that makes them better on the battlefield. And then there's the special like heavy infantry called the Anointed, which are these if a trooper goes on his pilgrimage to Jerusalem and he decides that's not good enough, he can choose to walk into the portal to hell, where he will then be taken to meditate and learn on the shores of the lake of fire. And the fire will burn the person's skin away. It will leave him covered in third-degree burns that are constantly aching and keeping them in torment for the rest of their lives. But when they come out, they're like 7 feet tall. They have super strength. They're completely immune to being harmed by fire. And they're outfitted with like this super duper, basically like power suits. These are like hell space marines, basically. And the only trade-off is that they're in constant pain and torment from all of these burns all over their body for the rest of their lives. And
I would imagine all of them are in constant pain, but
yeah, pain is a common byproduct of serving hell. And that what separates the boys from the men is how much you like the pain. And then you get to your more important guys, like you have your artillery witches, you got your werewolves. I explained both of them earlier. Every warband is led by a fallen priest, a heretic priest. And these priests are literally like the clergy of the mortal worshippers of hell. And they are magicians. They have the ability to use goetic magic. And so as they're walking along the battlefield, they'll be reading like these psalms and these passages from like infernal texts and like unholy works. And the words that they speak the power of these words will make people's like eyeballs pop in their sockets and set people on fire at random and shit like that. It's really neat. I love these priests. I love the heretic priests. They're a lot of fun. My favorite heretic model, though, my favorite one, the choristers. Oh, how do I explain choristers? So you mentioned earlier in the church for a long time, suicide was considered a sin. Yeah. These guys love to sin. Heretics love to sin. So what a chorister is if somebody can sing, and they kind of want to use their singing to kind of advance in the hierarchy of hell, they'll go to a black altar of a demonic patron, and they'll undergo this ritual where they will ceremonially cut their own throat with a cursed dagger. And they'll slice their own throat open, and they'll keep carving and carving until they finally bleed to death. And then their souls will go to hell. While they're in hell, they'll be taught a bunch of songs. Songs that are not meant to be sung in the mortal realm, and are not compatible with the fabric of creation. And so after 9 days of learning these songs, their body will pop back to life. And they'll finish carving into their neck until finally their head detaches. And they hold their head up and they walk forward onto the battlefield, and their head sings cursed songs that drive people to insanity.
Fucking metal as shit.
It's fucking crazy, dude. I love them to death. It's so wild. It's unbelievable. So different kinds of heretics. You got, of course, we talked about the heretic naval raiders a little bit. They're pretty big in the lore right now. You've got the Knights of Avarice, which are heretic legionaries who serve the Lord of the demonic lord of greed, Mammon, and he's the patron of greed. He's like the whenever like merchants and those who love the finer things in life, whenever they're corrupted to hell, they're often corrupted by Mammon. And these are the legionaries that serve Mammon, and they're all dripped out in the best, in golden armor. They refuse to use fire weapons like flamethrowers because fire damages their loot. And if the loot is damaged, then it's worthless when they take it off of their dead enemies. So they only use gas weapons.
That's much better.
But it's not much better in you're still killing people, but the stuff on the
I mean, it's still, depending on what's out there, it will still damage shit.
Yeah, they're fine with tarnishing something, but if it's just burned and unusable, then because all of their gold armor and shit, it's all tarnished gold. None of it, it's all rusted and shit. None of it's actually pretty. It's just stuff, and that's the whole point. It's just stuff. They desire stuff, and they're willing to kill to get stuff.
So it's like a hoarding thing, like a dragon hoard.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. There's actually a quote in the rulebook from Mammon himself, where Mammon says, "I shall make you so poor that in the end you shall have nothing but money." My faction that I play, the variant of Heretic Legions that I play, are called Trench Ghosts. They're my guys. I love Trench Ghosts. Trench Ghosts have a special place in my heart. I always come back to Trench Ghosts. When a heretic dies on consecrated soil, like in a cathedral or a church or a mosque or a Jewish temple, if a heretic dies on consecrated ground, their soul can't go to hell. Hell can't reach their soul because they're on consecrated ground, and it's blessed so hell can't reach their soul. But because they're such awful sinners, heaven won't take them either. So they're
kind of stuck in purgatory.
Their souls become trapped in their dead bodies. And so their bodies, it's described that the sacred earth spits out the vile defilement of their wicked flesh and spits them back out into the earth. And so their bodies just wander through no man's land, just staggering back and forth while they're rotting and they're falling to bits. And eventually a bunch of trench ghosts will kind of like they'll meet up with one another in no man's land, and they'll kind of meet back up together, and they'll form war bands. And they're tormented brains that can't process the situation that they found themselves in they'll just be running on instinct. So they'll do what they did in life. And what did these heretics do in life? They killed, and they tortured, and they looted, and they stole, and they committed every kind of sin. And so they just keep doing this on autopilot in their undeath. And so when you're wandering no man's land, you'll come across like these kingdoms of garbage that are ruled by like skeletal kings that are leading armies of these zombie men that are fighting for no reason for titles that don't matter on orders that nobody can hear. And the entire time you can just hear the whispers of their souls screaming out in pain and agony at their situation. Trench Ghosts are the fucking best. They're the best faction in the game. I will hear nothing else. Okay. Then we'll finish up the Cult of the Black Grail. Very complicated, but also very simple. They're the sickness faction. They're the
Are they basically Nurgle followers of Nurgle?
Yeah, they're kind of like Beelzebub is basically Trench Crusade Nurgle. All of his guys are inflicted with the Black Grail, this illness that mutates them into like these zombie poxwalker type things, and they will and their goal is to go out and spread more and more pestilence, spread the Black Grail further and further until they can destroy all life on Earth and bring it all within the worship of Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. But the Black Grail has a lot of different strains. Like diseases have strains, so the Black Grail has different kinds of strains. And each of these strains has like a different kind of way that they worship Beelzebub. The three main ones that we have, or the two main ones that we have, are the Dirge of the Great Hegemon, which is the ones that they were the ones that served the great hegemon Yersinia Rex, and then they were abandoned by Beelzebub in disgust when Yersinia Rex was killed by Joan of Arc, because Beelzebub considers them to be failures, and so they're in a constant state of mourning over their dead leader, the great hegemon, and so. And they're also like, they're not necessarily like plague. They don't look like sort of the plaguey type. Like they're not like necessarily rotting. A lot of them are kind of like mutated, so they're kind of like mixed with animals in a lot of cases, and a lot of pigs. There's a lot of pig people. Like I mentioned, the anti-pope likes to fuck pigs. And then you have the Great Hunger, which is, God, the Great Hunger is fucking dire. It's bad. It's real bad. The Great Hunger will... So whenever the Black Grail passes through a village, after it's been purged and cleansed, the peasants will often come back to their village, and all of a sudden people will start getting really hungry. So they'll start eating more, and they'll still feel hungry. So they'll start eating more and more. Everyone in the village. Until eventually they run out of food. So then they'll start slaughtering the livestock. They'll eat all of that. They'll kill all of the pets. They'll eat all of that. And then they'll start taking apart buildings and eating the wood. They'll start eating grass off of the ground. They'll start eating dirt and rocks. And they just keep eating and eating and eating until they're just desiccated husks. And then a whole bunch of other gross shit happens. I can't remember specifics, but it involves like a woman will start giving birth to like hundreds of like hungry monsters at a time, and really nasty models. They really gross. The only models from So the last faction we'll talk about today are the scary ones. This is the warbands of the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. And the Seven-Headed Serpent is the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. It's the governing body that rules hell. So in hell, there are 7 demons at any given time that rule over the layers of hell. And each one represents a different sin. And all of these seats are constantly being fought over by all of these different demons that are just all cutthroat and violent and hate each other and are constantly stepping over one another to get power. And so there's like a revolving door of lords of all of these different seats of the court. There are 2 permanent seats, technically. One of them, definitely a permanent seat. The seat of greed is held by Mammon and has been held by Mammon for its entire existence because nobody can unseat Mammon. Nobody is more greedy than Mammon, and he's just a fucking monster that nobody has ever like outwitted. So he's held his seat for forever. The second one, technically, is envy, which some people think is held by Beelzebub, but Beelzebub technically is not the Lord of Envy, even though his domain is envy. He is definitely the most powerful demon of envy, though. That is definitely true, but he refuses to be a part of the court. And so basically everybody fighting over the seat of envy in the court is fighting for second place.
Damn.
Yeah. But all of these different demon lords have their own guys in hell that, because the demons can't go up to Earth, so they make guys that can go up to Earth for them that aren't technically demons. They might be part demon, but they're not fully demon, and so they're not powerful enough to, cause an issue. So these guys like the Praetors, which are like half demon, half mortal creatures that are like super tall and have like these big fleshy wings, and they got like bodies hanging off of them. They're the leaders of these war bands. They're like the middle managers of hell, basically. They're the guys like keeping stock of everything in hell. And they'll go up and they'll lead war bands and accomplish things that whatever demon lord they serve wants done up on the surface. You've got the sorcerers. The sorcerers are really cool. The sorcerer. So when the fall happened, when the angels were cast out of heaven and sent to hell, not all of them survived the fall. Some of them, when they hit hell, they shattered into a million pieces. And some of those shards can be revived. And they have extremely powerful magic. And those become sorcerers. And then you have like these sort of demonic creatures called the Hunters of the Left-Hand Path. They have like arrows, like their like arms are like fleshy bows, and they can like shoot arrows out of their wrist. It's like giant fucking like bolt throwers.
I know you've like talked about the body horror, but the body horror throughout this is just so much worse. I've seen some of the models. It's like so egregious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not. If you're listening to this, you've never heard of Trench Crusade and you're interested in the art, if you are at all queasy or not interested in body horror, do not look at it. It is all over the goddamn place. It is horrifying. Even the quote unquote good guy, like faithful factions, like you'll see artwork of like children that are like covered in like antenna implants, like all over their body, and have like their eyes removed and shit. Like you'll see guys that are like their skin is peeling off because a monster is popping out of them and shit like that. Like it's rough. If you're faint of heart and don't like that stuff, don't bother with the game. It's a fun game, but it's not worth looking at the art if you're not into it. I am into it because I'm a broken husk of a man. So, anyways, yeah, that's the court. One of my favorite models, the largest model in the game that you can have, you can take with the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. It's called a desecrated saint. What a desecrated saint is there's those living saints.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a living saint, somebody who's ordained by God to be very holy and have special powers, demons really want them as trophies.
Well, duh.
And so a lot of demons, their most valuable prized possession is whenever they successfully corrupt a living saint into sinning. And they're able to claim that saint's soul so that when that saint dies, they yank that soul down to hell with them. That is a demon's most prized possession, and they will shove this soul into like a walker type thing, like just a giant like walker that's covered in like swords and shit, and send it out into battle, and these things just fuck shit up just everywhere they go, just tearing stuff apart.
So the next 20, 30 minutes of the recording were just Derek showing me concept art from Trench Crusade, and we didn't really have a good resolution to the end of this in a satisfactory manner that I like wraps it up in a normal way without just being, oh, hey, here's just stuff that's not explained in the lore, and I didn't figure this would be interesting to include into the episode, so I'm just cutting it off here and taking us to the outro. Alrighty, Derek, where can they find you at?
They can find me on Blue Sky at Visigoth. The O is a 0. Tim, give them the good stuff.
They can find me at Tim, a.k.a. Otis, on Blue Sky, and they can find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at the Alexander Society Pod, on Blue Sky at Alex Society Pod, and then if we ever log in back into our TikTok, Alexander Society, which we haven't posted since 2024, I just realized. If they've liked what they've heard today, please give us a rate and review on your streaming platform of choice, and we shall see you next time.
Bye.